Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Beat the Big Guys. I'm your host, Sandy Rosenthal, and today my guest is from the wonderful town of San Francisco, and his name is Niko Dunkel. Hello, Niko.
Hey everyone, thanks for having me.
You're so welcome. I'm really looking forward to hearing about the cool things you've been doing to beat the big guys out there. Big guys take all kinds of shapes and forms, and in this episode, the big guys take the forms of either homeowners associations or rental lords. So we're going to hear an earful today from Mr. Niko. But first, let me tell you just a little bit about him, and then we'll get started. Niko is a software engineer, as I said, from San Francisco. He's passionate about sustainability, surfs whenever he's not working on one of his pet projects, and is currently building joinatmos.com by day and sunboxlabs.com by night. Landry, I'm going to start that one again. Niko is currently building joinatmos.com by day and Sunbox, I did it again, and sunboxlabs.com by night. Niko is the founder of Sunbox Labs and also the designer of the Plug-in a Solar Kit. This device was created with the average renter in mind. A major obstruction to the transition to solar energy is that many renters are not able to make the switch to solar. This is because landlords and homeowners associations are typically averse to transitioning for its perceived inconvenience. Thus, the renter is prevented from making the climate-friendly, energy-efficient choice. Sunbox Labs aims to change that with their Plug-in a Solar Kit, an unobstructive solar panel small enough to fit on the standard windowsill. Well, I know I can't wait to hear more, and I'm sure our listeners do as well. So, Niko, take it away.
Definitely. Hey everyone. Yeah, thanks for having me again. Um, yeah, I'm excited to tell you about Sunbox Labs. I've been a renter all my life and mostly lived in cities. So, in the cities, you just have a completely different kind of living setup that you would, let's say, in the suburbs. And that often means that you have a landlord or you have neighbors above and below you, and you just basically don't have as much access or self-determination when it comes to going solar or your energy choices. Energy is just something that comes out of the wall with good reason. You can't have everyone in the city kind of creating their own power like you would in or you can nowadays in the countryside. That being said, technology's improved a lot recently, and we can, I think, benefit from a lot of the new technologies out there and the new benefits that come with them. So, long story short, I set out to answer the question: what if solar was a consumer electronic, just like let's say a satellite dish back in the day at this point, or I'm seeing fewer of them in the city actually, or something like a window AC unit that you can self-install and basically plug in and play, and you don't need a lot of paperwork and permissions to do it. So obviously, this is electricity, and you need to be careful with it. But technology is improving a lot all the time, and I do think we're now at a point where these things are getting very close to plug and play. And especially now, me in San Francisco or in like California in general, we have a lot of these public utility shutoffs when in wildfire season. So our grid actually does go out. We've been without power for up to a week. Not as much due to shutoffs here in the city. Here it's more windstorms that will blow down power lines. East Coast, obviously, the hurricanes well. In the Midwest, our ice storms are getting more extreme. So this whole concept of being possible to be off grid, I think is not only relevant nowadays for people outside of cities, it's also increasingly important that you can, at a pinch, create your own power in the city. And on top of that, I think it's really exciting to just have that choice. My landlord doesn't want to install solar panels on our roof. The payoffs don't work out with the investors that own the house we live in. And so I basically have no choices when it comes to power consumption. I can hope that my utility offers a green option, whatever that may mean. Um, but if I build my own system, I can actually simply create my own power. So I wrote an article about this. I started with a very small system about 7 years now ago, and it got a huge. I just wrote up, it was a small lead acid battery, a deep cycle, and a small solar panel, and I wrote up an article about this and how I kind of ran my room off solar. And it got a huge amount of reception online, and it got 200,000 views overnight, and really blew up, and was a lot of fun. I got a lot of positive and a lot of also negative feedback. People were worried about the safety of these systems, etc. I took all of that to heart, and I saw actually my systems popping up at festivals and at random other kind of locations that I hadn't expected. I doubt too many people actually built this in their apartment back then, because this was a small system and could only really run, laptops, phones. It could run, speakers, basically other smaller DC consumer electronics, or AC consumer electronics. Um, then I built a second system, which I actually started to sell because again, 4 years later, this was 4 years later at this point. Technology had improved a lot, so these kits that nowadays you can also buy from Jackery or EcoFlow. There's a lot of these new brands that are awesome. Um, they they've now started selling these all-in-one generators that go up to about 500 watts. So now enough to run basically everything but your fridge or your toaster or really high-powered devices. They can run everything but that. And so, yeah, I sold this solar kit. It was 200 watts of solar panel, and it went up to 500 watts as opposed to 100 watts like the first one. Um, and that was great. I sold a lot, quite a few of those, but mainly to like campers, people who lived in vans and needed just a bit of power. People who yeah, were off grid completely. I actually sold quite a few to Puerto Rico, funnily enough. Well, I mean, unfortunately, because their grid is very unstable still. Um, and I'm also the only person who shipped to Hawaii. Jackery and a lot of the bigger brands never shipped out there, so that was my main differentiator on those. Um, and now I'm at the end of this journey, and in my living room right now, to my girlfriend's chagrin, I have a large 3,000 watt setup, which runs my whole apartment, fridge, space heaters, whatever I can throw at it, induction stove. It all runs off this one inverter. I have now a 1.8 kilowatt system on the roof, and it's all self-installed and actually very simple. So I think enabling the little guys, as you were saying before, is kind of something that I think is really exciting about this. And that little guy is sometimes also in cities and not only in off grid in the woods somewhere. So that's what Sunbox Labs is about, and you can follow it at sunboxlabs.com. And yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Well, here we go, because I've been made a bunch of notes as you were talking. I almost don't know where to start first. But I think the first thing that really caught my attention was you said you got 200,000 follows or likes or on
Mhm.
what?
Oh, sorry. So it was a blog piece, and I just
Huh?
tracked how many views. The first article was actually still on Medium, so they had pretty good tracking on that. And yeah, it was 200,000 in the first day or two. It was viral on Reddit and this site called Hacker News, and then I got another 100,000 in a long tail over the next year after that. Um, yeah, so that's how I know how many people roughly read it.
So the to our listeners that we can't promise you that whatever you're doing is going to go viral, but it could. You
Yeah,
will
yeah.
never know if you didn't post it.
Definitely, definitely.
And
Well, I
how much does it cost? Does it cost any money to
um
have an account on Medium?
no, yeah,
No.
medium's free, and yeah, totally.
So,
Yeah.
but you'll never, something can't go viral if you don't post it. Now, and I'm not comparing this to buying a raffle ticket and winning the $1 billion prize. Because you just don't know what's going to take off and go viral. And
Completely.
if anyone knew the answer, they'd be a trillionaire.
I'm a big
They-
fan of that. Sorry, I'm a big fan of that saying, an overnight success, many years in the making. That's what it often feels like when you do finally hit something that strikes a nerve.
So true. So true. A quick example, if you see a musician and hear a musician singing for the first time and you go, oh, what a great musician. I've never heard them before. It turns out they've been working for 25 years or since they were three, you know.
Yeah, to perfect that sound. Yeah.
By the time you first heard them on the radio. So, okay, so it's really important. Take advantage of social media. It doesn't cost a dime. It takes a few seconds to upload something, and you won't know if you don't try. So that's really important. I also wanted to point out that what I'm really excited about with the work that you're doing is that it's a lower cost than what's out there right now. In New Orleans, we get a lot of blackouts and brownouts that are weather related. And there are some people in town that have Tesla battery packs that are enough to power a safe house, which is, a refrigerator and a freezer and maybe a little AC unit for one room. But they're very expensive, prohibitively still. So
Mhm.
not
Definitely.
this is not, the answer. It is an answer, but not the answer. So we really, really do need something like what you're working on, and I'm really personally very excited about it. You also mentioned that the smaller system that you had a couple of years ago that was available was only enough to run a laptop. But wow, that's a big deal. Your
Yeah.
laptop.
I often thought, that, oh, I'm doing my work off, stored sunshine, which is a beautiful like thought right in itself. And then yeah, ran the router, ran the laptop. What more do you need just to get some basic work done?
Right, and because from that you get more information. Well, where is there electricity, and but at least you're connected, at least you're back hooked into society. The biggest damage done during, if I can talk just a moment about what the
Mhm.
big guys that I had to beat. The most harmful thing that happened to the people of New Orleans is that we were totally off grid for 5 days. And then a lot of the harmful things that happened was because we were off grid, not just the water. The water was terrible and the levee breaks were terrible, but being off grid was way up there in
Mhm.
problems. So just having your laptop and being hooked in is really important. I also wanted to share something with our listeners. So if your electricity is out for, let's say, 24 hours, that could be enough or even 48, that could be enough to destroy all of your food and your freezer and your refrigerator. But there's a little trick we Southerners can give all the listeners right now, is do what we do when a storm is coming. Take a pot of water and put it in the freezer and freeze it, and it turns into this big block of ice. And then you put a block of ice, keep one in the freezer and put a block of ice in the refrigerator, and you'll save everything for 48 hours, certainly.
Smart. Wow. Yeah.
And you don't
True
have to go
secret
buy
energy.
it. Just freeze
Yeah.
it. Just run some water, put it in a pot, and put it in the freezer. So,
Huh.
so that's a little trick we Southerners can offer for the rest of you. And then in 48 hours, between the ice for the refrigerator and the freezer, and then the solar unit for your laptop, you'll be in pretty good shape.
Definitely. Yeah. I also want to say that, I don't think everyone needs a full off-grid, capable system. As you say, like often a battery's enough to get you through a 24-hour outage. And I think also, like th this can be overkill for a lot of people. And yeah, this definitely isn't always necessary and for everyone. I think it's important also to see these things in relation. So, the like 100 watts, 100 watt hours can run. It's basically like a big battery bank that you'd have for, in your pocket. That can run a laptop and is wonderful. And I think that's enough for most people for resiliency in a city. And then, the next order of magnitude up is kind of the previous one I sold. That's half a kilowatt hour. That's enough to run, a router and your laptop and maybe some, a CPAP machine, some smaller
Mm.
medical devices like that. Over a weekend. That's great. And then, what I'm really doing now is like I'm trying to be very binary about this. I want to use zero. I use it as a challenge. Zero grid power, and so I have a 3,000 watt hour, 3,000 watt system, which is so order of magnitude. That's about like a third of a Tesla Powerwall and about half of its performance. But I mean, all in this system here with secondhand solar panels, because secondhand solar panels off the roof of Walmart, go on your local Craigslist, you'll find endless, basically free solar panels. Because as they cycle through and as these businesses renew their solar panels, you can get completely, great solar panels at a tenth of their original cost.
Wow.
Um, sorry, so all in this system here cost 1,500 US dollars. That's including all solar, all cables, all batteries, all inverters, etc. And it's becoming pretty approachable. Not cheap yet, but
Not
you know it's like an expensive laptop. Yeah,
it'll get cheap.
yeah,
But this, even still, these numbers are far, far more sustainable and realistic than these gigantic solar batteries that
yeah,
Tesla has right now. That
totally.
are amazing, but they're prohibitively expensive
Yeah,
still. And hope, but they're continuing to come down. And
definitely.
thank you for reminding our listeners and me about medical equipment. I mean, there are a lot of people that need medical equipment. Um,
Yeah.
which don't may not take it may not use as much power as an AC unit or a refrigerator or a freezer, but they're far more life-saving and more important.
Definitely, yeah.
And
And a lot of them are very small. So you don't need solar panels to run a CPAP, right? A big battery is part of that. And I will say, like Tesla, yes, they're very expensive still. But I mean, it really is electric cars that have made these batteries so affordable now.
oh,
And that's why this step change has happened and things have become so much more affordable. Smartphones initially, but now really EVs have taken over as this driver of getting the price down on storage specifically. Yeah,
so let's talk for just a moment about the biggest in your mind, where the most resistance has been
yeah,
to your ideas. And you notice we don't call them bad guys. They're
yeah,
the
yeah,
big guys that just have a status quo that they don't want to change for whatever reason. So
yeah,
talk
definitely.
about that for just a moment.
I mean, I think personally the biggest challenge here is and often with these green questions is just financial like misalignment. Unfortunately, so the big guys here are the landlords who often they're at this point hedge funds or they're they may be which well, hedge funds, they may be large public investment companies, so which would be part of our 401ks, or they may also be family entities. But long story short, they have a lot of property and they're trying to make money off it. And thinking extremely long term, as in a 25-year or a 20-year payback, is not something they're interested in doing necessarily for their properties. They want to, raise the rents as much as possible and keep costs as low as possible. And then in addition, there's this misalignment on solar specifically, which is that you pay the power bill if you rent, but your landlord would have to pay for the price of solar. So why would your landlord install something that's going to save the renters money and not themselves? There's no reason for them to do that.
No
So
incentive.
no incentive, yes. So I think that's a large part of the reason why a lot of these kind of things aren't happening as much in cities. If you own your own home in the suburbs, like you may well think on a 15, 25 year time horizon, and with solar nowadays, often you can start saving money pretty quickly, like a year 4, year 6. I think it make there the incentives are a lot more aligned. Yeah, it's mainly this. The big guys here are the landlords. I will say my landlord now is absolutely amazing and is asks me how the solar experiments are going and is really into it. But I have had landlords in the past who are very, weirded out by this concept and worried that the panels would blow away and I was going to burn down the building and stuff. And I see that there's that if you don't know about electricity, it seems very dangerous there. But thanks to the internet and open source plans, like there's amazing people out there like Will Prowse. So is a big everyone in the community is a big fan of him in DIY solar, and everyone else who has contributed over the years. There's very clear wiring diagrams nowadays, and it's really not that complicated. Yeah.
So this resistance to the solar energy and the panels sounds like to me like it's grounded in actually a realistic and reasonable concern.
Yeah.
And even though their objections may be unreasonable, they have a reasonable concern because you said there's a misalignment of priorities. So what is your suggestion?
Definitely. I think in essence, we need solutions that are plug and play so that people don't need to mess around as you currently do with current solutions to get off grid. So there's a lot of people I know who, either want to do something for the climate or want to be have autonomous energy access and not be dependent on the grid. Uh, and they just don't do it because it's too complicated and you need permits and you need an electrician, and then if you move you lose your whole investment because it's attached to the wall. And I do think we need things like we're building and many people are building now, that you can just take with you if you up stakes and move, and you can install yourself safely without the need for an electrician, and you can I forgot what my third pushback was, but yeah, I think we need solutions like this that just bring down the bar.
So when your solar panel, once someone's installed it in their fourth floor of their apartment house that they're in or building, if you move, you can disinstall it and take it with you?
Definitely, yeah. There's
That-
there's no damage to the building. There's no. It's not. So to clarify, it's not grid tied. So if you have a large solar panel from a traditional installer, that's what you'll want a lot of the time. If you have a suburban home or a big commercial property, that is often has historically always been grid tied. So you'd sell the utility back your power that you create from the sunshine during the day, and then you'd buy back power from the utility at night when you needed it. Um, with NEM3 and the changes to regulations here in California and in a lot of places, a lot of utilities are now saying we have enough power from the sun at lunchtime. We don't want to buy any more. So they're lowering the prices there. And then they're saying we don't have enough power at night. We're throwing on our gas peaker plants. And really raising the prices in the evenings. So what I'm trying to say is these grid tied systems where you sell back and then buy back, they're going out of style now because we're hitting a point in the clean energy transition where we can no longer it's no longer tenable to be the utilities can't store all this energy they're buying. And that's why I think these battery-based systems, thank goodness they're getting affordable enough now that you can store your own energy and and then use your own energy in the evenings without going through the utility. So, and I just wanted to clarify, sorry, long way of saying my systems aren't grid tied. I never sell back to the utility because there you need electricians. It's very high power. You're dealing with the central switchboard and you also need permits. I sidestep all of that by having it just as a consumer electronic in my apartment.
Right, right. So, so we've talked a lot, quite a bit about landlords and rentals, but what
Mhm.
about homeowners associations? I mean, what's the homeowners association that they got a problem with? They maybe they just don't like the way they look.
Mhm. Yeah,
That's
definitely.
it. That's it.
Yeah.
They just
I
don't like the way they look. Well, so
I think
what's your comment on that?
yeah, I mean I think it comes back to that same permitting issue. You know, the homeowners associations don't really have much say if you which car you're buying or which lawnmower you're buying.
Thank goodness.
Thank goodness. But they do have a
I think
say.
they would try if they if they
Right. But they do have a say over, your neighbors will have a say over what you put on your roof permanently. And so again, you can sidestep this if you have an unshaded backyard, you can simply put the panels there. And it's a lot less of a commitment when you're not going through permitting and grid tie. Um, yeah, if you can swing it that way. So that's not something I have as much experience with personally, but I do know friends in like upstate New York comes to mind, and he was having trouble with his HOA, and that's why he went for one of these systems. It's because traditional solar wasn't yet welcomed in his community. So,
an HOA is a recognized big guy that needs to be beaten. I've had two past guests who've had run-ins with their HOA. One was over, she wanted a pollinator garden in her front yard and not
mhm.
traditional lawn.
Right.
And
Huh?
she changed the changed the law in the state of Maryland.
Good for
And
her. That's amazing.
good for her. And then I had another example at HOA on a different issue, but yeah, that doesn't surprise me at all. The so I'm sure you're familiar, Niko, with Tesla's shingles, solar shingles that look like a roof and
Yeah.
actually quite attractive. So what can you share about that?
Yeah, I think they're amazing. I wish them luck, and I think we need any solution we can get. That's a different kind of market from mine. That's people who need new roofs in the suburbs often, or brand new construction. That's not retrofitting a semi-mobile system to a urban apartment or an off-grid cabin. But yeah, I wish them luck. I think we need any solution we can get, and yeah, if I am in that position, I'd buy it.
I have seen pictures of them, but it still seems to be only in prototype mode, and
Yeah,
it's been talked about a long time.
definitely.
But
Yeah,
there must be something preventing them from being put out onto the market. But they're very attractive. I can't
yeah,
imagine a homeowners association that they wouldn't like them. So let's wish Tesla well on that, or somebody else. It doesn't have to be Tesla. Someone else
totally. Yeah.
come up with the idea. Hi, Niko. What is an idea for you?
Hey, I'll think about it.
Well, at least I've given you a vote of confidence.
Thank you. I appreciate it a lot.
Yeah, big vote for you. So we've about run out of time, but is there anything else, Niko, that you'd like to share with our listeners?
Yeah, I just wanted to say I think there's a lot of hope in this transition off of fossil fuels. I think we need to move as fast as we can, but there's a lot of great technology out there that can help us. And I think we're gonna make this just fine. We do need to hurry, but there's a lot of hope. I just wanted to leave you with that.
Those are fabulous final words. Thank you so much for joining us, Niko. This is Niko Dunkel.
Thank you very much.
And thank you to the listeners for joining us today. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Please be sure to like, subscribe, and rate this podcast on all of your favorite platforms. And remember, no matter who you are, you too can beat the big guys.